Yep, I can do when it's wrong.
Ah, there we go. Great.
All right.
We'll do the same thing with rescue 2.
Okay, and let me ask you this, Jenny. How long has Lebanon had this the entire time since 2002? Do you know? Have we had it?
This is a 2004, and yeah.
2004. I'm sorry. They bought it new in 2004. And tell me about you say, and I can feel it seems a little bit rough. We're on a smooth road now too.
Yeah,
we're on 202. But do you have actually? Can you tell me anecdotally about patients maybe that have been this, that have said it seems a little rough, or this is a little uncomfortable, or?
I think that patients express that about an ambulance no matter what. Unless they've been in both, they couldn't comparison, they couldn't compare. But for myself, knowing how little bumps like that can affect somebody who's got an injury or who's already really sick. I know that, say, for example, we have somebody back here who had a broken leg.
You did, or if you did?
If I did,
yep.
I have. But if I did right now, that bump would have been very painful for them, even with pain medication.
Even with what?
Pain medication.
Yes.
So, the bumps are not good for the friction of bone against bone and bone against tissue. And that's true for any vehicle, but I'm more so for this one, I think.
Now that you combine that with your wish and your, hope and desire to get the patient to the hospital as soon as possible, you kind of have a decision to make between, do I take that? I know there's a bump in that road. Do I take it at 40 or do I slow down to 20 and take longer to get to the hospital? Does that ever come into play, or is that something that really shouldn't, or what's your feeling?
It always comes into play, and it actually always comes into play with any ambulance. It comes into play with choosing a route to drive and how fast to go. And it always comes down to how critical the patient is. If the patient is going to die before we get there, then the bumps don't matter. But typically they're not. Typically they're not going to die before we get there. And we can keep their anxiety down and their pain level down and their discomfort down by going a little slower and just taking nicer care of them.
Now just, if you were to, and we're going to take a ride in Rescue 2 later on, right? If you were to guess, would you say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the best and level 10 being the worst ambulance ride possible as far as smoothness, where would you put the Rescue 1, which we're in now, the 2004, with 1 being...
What's that? Okay, thank you.
With 1 being the smoothest and 10 being the worst, where would you put Rescue 1 that we're in now?
So Rescue 1 would probably be, if 10 is the worst.
10 is the worst, yeah.
It would probably be around a 6 or a 7.
A 6 or a 7.
The bigger the truck, the worse the bumps are.
Yes.
It's a very big truck.
Yep.
And it depends on the airbags, which do leak and need repair. So, yeah, it's a pretty rough ride.
Okay. And just let us know right now, if I get sick and we can't do Rescue 2, where do you put Rescue 2 on 1 being the best and 10 being the worst?
Rescue 2 probably around a 3 or 4.
Okay, so a substantial difference.
Yeah.
Between a 2, 3, or 4 and a 6 or a 7, isn't that what you said, pretty much? Okay, all right. And obviously, if you had your choice and you had a broken leg, which would you want to be transported in?
I want to be in Rescue 2, for sure. For sure, with lots and lots of fentanyl, but with Rescue 2.
Now, what road are we on now? Do you know offhand?
I think we're on West Lebanon Road.
West Lebanon Road, okay. And what have you and Kevin picked out for a bumpy one? Or is this the bumpy one?
This is actually pretty smooth for right now.
Yeah.
I think Sean is going to, I let it up to them, they choose a route.
Not Shapley. Don't not Shapley.
No, Sean has chosen a route. Sean is driving.
Okay, oh, Sean is
And
showing
he's,
around. Okay.
and what I'm gonna ask him to do is take the same route for both vehicles, so you can really compare.
Right, right.
Hey, Sean,
Yes.
make sure you pay attention where you're going. We'll do the same with Rescue 2.
Yeah, we're just gonna do a loop. We're gonna head north Rochester, River Road.
Sounds good, thank you. Did you hear that?
Yep, North Rochester Road and River Road, then go back.
Yeah.
So, we're not going on by far the worst roads in Lebanon.
No. We do want to reserve some of the undercarriage for patients.
And I'm not talking about Orals Hill, but I mean, because Orals Hill is really not a youth
Yeah.
road, but I'm talking even in roads, and some of the worst roads, of course, are Shapley,
Shapley Road is tough.
which is really bad. Parts of Schoolhouse Lane, Schoolhouse Road up there in West Lebanon. Where else that you?
So, pretty much any road off of Shapley Road is pretty terrible. And T.M. Wentworth Road gets really rough.
T and Wentworth,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, anywhere, going up Depot Road, once you pass Baker's Grant, it gets windy and bumpy.
And of course, if you have to go into a long driveway that's a dirt road, I mean, many of those are really bad.
And you do that a lot.
And you do that a lot. And it's not like you want to go really, really slow out of those driveways, because that's all time. It's all time and safety, right?
It is, but, safety comes first, and, luckily, to put the medical spin on it, they're prepared for almost anything. But at the same time, the goal is to get the patients to definitive care, which is the hospital, not to keep them in our ambulance as long as possible.
Okay. I think we'll take a pause right here, and I'll see if I can.
Hill Road.
So we're on River Road now.
Yeah.
And River Road is not as bumpy as it used to be, but it still has some bumpy areas, right?
It does. It's pretty good for frosties in the wintertime, that's for sure.
Oh, geez, yes. And of course, you wouldn't be going this slow, I don't think, if you had a patient.
I actually encourage us to go slow because when I have a patient back here, I'm not seatbelted. And so every time we take air, I take air. And I don't want to
Now, when you say take care, it means that when it really is, does it inflate?
Yeah.
Do the airbags inflate?
whenever we hit a bump really hard,
Yeah.
and we bounce high,
Yeah.
then I bounce high.
Oh, I see. You catch some air, like
Yeah.
a skateboarder.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, the patient is safe. I don't want to hurt them. And I
Have you
don't
ever
want
hit
to-
your head on the
I
ceiling?
have. I have. So I encourage them to go slower.
But I mean, obviously, if it was a heart attack or something like that, then you would be going. Then of course you have to make a decision, I guess, again with something like that.
Safety is always first, and there's lots of parts to a heart attack besides the heart itself. Anxiety actually makes a heart attack worse. So making sure you're calm and not saying be ready to kill myself in the back.
Oh, okay. Yep,
So,
that makes sense. Wow, I think he's going up Oak Hill Road.
oh God. Oh, I should get it. Now, to be fair, we do spend a lot of time on roads just like this.
I know you do. I know you do, and because there's so many private roads that are off of these roads that aren't town roads. I mean, you don't stop at the town road and carry a stretcher a mile in on a county road like Homestead Way or County Road over in West Lebanon. They're all over the town, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they call them, I believe, Class 4 roads.
Oh, I don't know
but I think they're class 4 roads, and, you know, they're not maintained by the town like this, but as you can see, this is a fairly long road with quite a few houses on it.
There are, yep, and they are mostly farmhouses and trailers, and a fair amount of them have longer driveways.
Now, this is 4-wheel drive.
It is.
Is the other one 4-wheel drive?
I don't think so.
Think it is. So do you prefer this in the winter, in the snow?
Specifically for the 4-wheel drive, yes. But that's the only reason.
Right.
Now, most ambulances that I've been in my career are not 4-wheel drive, and we just work it out.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have the comfort and safety of the patient and go slower or plan better.
So now we're back on Route 202,
Yep.
and almost there.
Yeah.
So you actually, I mean, other than not getting rid of Rescue 2 because it is such a new vehicle and there's only 2 payments left, fundamentally tell me about having 2 ambulances versus 1.
So, having 2 ambulances means that we can take one out of service for maintenance and still be able to respond to calls. That also means that we can respond to multiple calls or calls with multiple patients with 2 staffed ambulances, which takes the burden off of our neighboring towns because for every time they have to come give us mutual aid, they're not responding to a call in their town. And, you know, it's just a cycle then.
It's kind of a fairness thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So if we can take care of our own, I would prefer that we do.
I mean, I do hear some people say, you know, why not just let Rochester and Sanford do it all? What do you say to that?
Well, I think that then we have to pay Rochester and Sanford to do those things because they're going to have to get extra staffing because they have an obligation to their own town and they can't blow that obligation off to take care of our needs.
Right, that's why it's called mutual aid.
Right. So if it's going to be mutual aid all the time, then, well, we have to pay them for that service.
Right.
Because they now have to prepare to staff
And
our other ambulance.
I can't imagine, you know, that would be I can't imagine that would be cheap, of course. I mean, it's not charity. They're going to be you're going to be paying for everything it's going to take them to staff that ambulance. And if they need another ambulance, that's going to be put into the cost, I would think.
Yep. I mean, they're not going to foot the bill for what it costs to staff and insure and stock an ambulance for a town that isn't even theirs.
All right. Well, thank you very much.